All right, I want to just take a look today at a lesson on ordering numbers, which are rational numbers. So we're looking at ordering rational numbers. We're just going to go through a few examples here of how we can order them out. Now, if you're doing this as a part of the lesson, I would welcome you to gladly pause the lesson kind of after or before I go through each answer, and then give yourself an opportunity to kind of see, are you able to find the right order on your own or in a group of others. So let's go through some examples, and I'll point out a couple things to be aware of as we go through them. So first one here, let's order the numbers in ascending order. Now you'll see that word ascending, and we could see one of two words. We could see either ascending or descending. Ascending means we're going from smallest to biggest. Now when negatives are involved, that's going to mean like the farthest negative is the smallest number. And then going into positives where the bigger the number, the more or the bigger it is. So it's going to be kind of our last number. So in this question right here, we are told or we're asked to put these ones into ascending order. We have 3, -5, 12, -2, and -3. We can list them out. And so here is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 listed out as to which is biggest and smallest. -5 being our lowest number. Okay, lowest number. So that's going to come first. And then 12 being the largest number, so that's going to come last. And then we write it out in ascending order as such. Okay, -5, -3, -2, 3, and 12 is going to be our last one there. Here's another set that we have, a bunch of decimals. Okay, so be careful, those commas there are going to be the ones that separate the numbers. Can you label these, or sorry, can you write them out in ascending order? I'll give you a second and gladly unpause when you have it done. So let's take a look at these numbers. Now, when we're looking at decimal numbers, we have to think of them as having the same number of decimal places. So a number like 0.5, which happens to be the first one in that order, okay, the one right down there, okay, at the far end, that one there is going to be something like 0.50, okay, so we have to think of that as being like 50. It's not 5, like 0.05 or 0.07, it's 0.50 if we add that second decimal place in. And so we can think about it that way as well. Now I'm going to label them out again the way that I did before. There we go. And there's the order that they come in as well. 0.05, 0.07, 0.25, 0.5, and then 0.52 being the biggest. Now remember that 0.5 is like 0.50, or think of it as 50. So 5, 7, 25, 50, and 52 would be the numbers that we would have. All right, let's try this one here. Let's order these in ascending order. Now they're negative, so be careful. Okay, unpause the video again when you have your answer. All right, let's go through the answer here. Now, the lowest number in here is going to be that -4.8. It is the biggest negative, if we want to think of that, or the largest negative, which happens to be the smallest value. Okay, remember, value is different than just number, the size of the number. Okay, so -4.8 is going to be our lowest value, and that's what we're going to start with. Okay, because again, we're doing ascending order. My questions will usually give them in ascending order. I'll ask to do them ascending order, but it might give something different. So be careful in the wording as you're looking at the different questions. All right, so -4.8 being the first one, and then we can label the rest of them and plug them into the order there, and you'll notice again that 0.1, okay, think of it as 10, is going to be lower than 0.01, okay, on that -3.01. And same thing with -2.5 and -2.05. Okay, they're not both 0.5. They have different values based on being in the tenths and hundredths position. Next one, let's look at some fractions. Okay, give this one a shot and then unpause when you have your answer. So let's take a look at the question here. When we're doing a question like this, I'm going to recommend that with all of these, and this is going to be something that I'm going to ask you to show your work in as well, create a common denominator for the fractions to compare the numerators. So create a common denominator. Now, 1 and 0 is a little bit more difficult to think of because they're whole numbers already, but we can still make a common denominator of 4 for all of these, and this is what it's going to look like. Okay, we have 2/4, 4/4, 1/4, 0/4, and 3/4. Now we label them from smallest to biggest, so 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then write them out back in their original state, and then in there from ascending to, lowest to highest. So we start with a 0, and then 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and 1. Always write them back out in their original state. Okay, so the numbers that you're given originally, write those out as your final answer, but show your work with the common denominator on either the same line or a different line, depending on how you are putting your work in. All right, here's the next one. We have a bunch of different denominators. Find a common denominator, and then order these out. Okay, let's go through and make a common denominator. Now, what did he get as a common denominator? I heard 8, 6. No, not that, right? 12, not quite. 24, yep, you betcha. We're going to do it on 24, okay? So we have 21, 8, 20, 12, and 18. And you'll notice that I left them in the same order as the question did. That way then I can relate back to those a little bit later on. So let's order them from least to greatest. 8, 12, 18, 20, 21. There we go. And then write them out in order based on their original. So 8/24 is the same as 1/3. 12/24 is the same as 1/2. And so we're going to write them out in that order so that we can see the original values put in there. All right, next one deals with some negatives. Okay, can we order these from least to greatest? So ascending order. Make sure we have a common denominator in there. I'll give you a second to work on that. All right, let's try to find the ascending order. So first of all, what is the common denominator? Do I hear 12? Yeah, you betcha. Okay, I'm glad that you found that. So we put everything over 12. You'll see there's also some improper fractions in there as well, so we have numbers bigger than 12. Again, it doesn't matter if they're improper or regular. Okay, we can do the same method as long as we have a common denominator. All right, which is the lowest value? Okay, starting ascending order is the -18. Then 16, 15, 10, and 8. These are negative, so we're going backwards. Think of it as being backwards. And then bring back the originals and put them into ascending order, with -3/2 being the lowest and -2/3 being the largest value that we have here. Okay, let's try something a little different. What about mixed numbers? Again, pause the video and we'll come back in a bit. All right, with these here, okay, we again can make a common denominator. Now, when you're looking through, you might see one and be like, haha, I know that's the biggest one. Yeah, the one that has a 3 in front. Good. Okay, so you know that's going to be the biggest one. But if we do a common denominator, everything's going to be over 20. So we're going to have 6, 10, 15, and 16. And then that 3 and 5 20s is just the biggest one. So label them out as to which is the smallest and the biggest, and then write them back out in their original form. Okay, so remember to always do original form as you are doing that. All right, when you are solving these questions, be sure to write them out in ascending or descending, depending on the question that's given. Always make sure that with fractions, you're writing out that common denominator as well. I will be watching for that. I'm going to make sure that you're doing that as I go through and check your work, both on your assignment as well as your test. And make sure that, again, you rewrite out the numbers in their original form once you have checked them. All the best, and gladly send me a message if you are needing some help.